Good day, everyone. Imagine waking up one morning to discover that your local pub, the one where you have celebrated birthdays, drowned sorrows, debated politics, and made lifelong friends, has closed its doors for good. Now imagine that happening to over 500 pubs across Britain this year alone. Welcome to Rachel Reeves Britain, where the Chancellor is apparently determined to turn our nation's beloved watering holes into a nostalgic memory, whilst she jets off to Davos to discuss global economic strategies. Because nothing says, "I care about British workers," quite like attending champagne receptions in Switzerland, whilst publicans back home are desperately waiting for details of a U-turn that may or may not save their livelihoods. Quick favor, if you're loving this, hit that subscribe button. Over 94% of viewers have not yet. It is free, takes a second, and means the world to us. Thanks if you did. Now back to the show. Let us talk about what is happening to Britain's pubs, because this is not just about beer and crisps, this is about the very fabric of British society unravelling one closed door at a time. Last year, more than one pub across England and Wales closed their doors every single day. Think about that for a moment. Every 24 hours, somewhere in this country, a community lost its local, its meeting place, its social hub. But here's where it gets properly depressing. The forecast for this year is even more grim, with around 500 British watering holes expected to shut up shop under the Treasury's current plans to slap business rates on the boozers. 500 pubs. That is not just a statistic, that is 500 communities losing their heart and soul. GB News reporter Sophie Reaper recently spent time speaking to local residents in a Lancashire pub, and what she found was a mixture of anxiety, frustration, and genuine fear about the future. Landlords up and down the United Kingdom are desperate to hear how the Chancellor's upcoming plans will impact them, and the silence from the Treasury has been absolutely deafening. Sophie put it perfectly when she said, "Now pubs are of course a staple for Great Britain. It is something that communities rely on." But apparently Rachel Reeves didn't get that memo. Or if she did, she used it to prop up a wobbly table at some fancy restaurant in Davos. The voices from that Lancashire pub tell you everything you need to know about what is at stake here. Nick, one of the regulars, made his case beautifully. Pubs are part of the heritage in the history of the United Kingdom. They are a vital part of that heritage, history, and culture, and this place reflects how perfectly people come in. It is a community asset. You get all sorts of different people. We have discussions, debates, whatever, but we're all mates at the end of the day. All mates at the end of the day. When was the last time you could say that about anywhere else in modern Britain? Not on social media, that's for certain, not in most workplaces, but in the pub, where the banker sits next to the builder, where the teacher has a pint with the tradesman, where political differences are debated over a game of darts, and everyone still buys each other rounds. That's the Britain we're losing, one closed pub at a time. Then there's Dave, who added this gut-wrenching observation. There's not many pubs now. There's so many shut in now, and there's the community. There's nowhere else to go. There's nowhere else. Where do we go from there? Where indeed, Dave? To our isolated homes to scroll through our phones? To soulless chain restaurants, where the atmosphere has all the warmth of a budget airline terminal? The pub is not just about drinking, it's about belonging, about community, about that third place between work and home, where society actually functions as it should. Now let's rewind to where this nightmare began. Publicans across the nation continue to be reeling from Reeves' budget, where she announced she would slap increased business rates on the British staple. Business rates, for those fortunate enough not to be running a small business, are essentially a tax on commercial properties. They are already eye-wateringly expensive, and Reeves decided that what Britain's struggling hospitality sector really needed was an even bigger bill. It's rather like seeing someone drowning and throwing them an anchor instead of a lifeline. But wait, there's a glimmer of hope, right? Over Christmas, the Treasury announced a potential climb down on the rates, which was widely welcomed by political opponents and publicans alike. Finally, some common sense from the government. Finally, a recognition that maybe, just maybe, taxing community institutions out of existence is not brilliant policy. Except here's the problem. Several weeks on, Reeves is yet to outline how she plans to offer a lifeline to Britain's breweries. The announcement of the potential U-turn created headlines, made the government look responsive and caring, and then absolutely nothing happened. It's the political equivalent of telling someone you're going to help them move house, getting credit for being such a good friend, and then never actually showing up on moving day. The industry is under the impression that the Labour Chancellor will unveil the support measures on Tuesday, but according to reports from The Telegraph, Reeves is expected to turn her nose up at permanent assurances, because why offer long-term stability when you can provide temporary sticking plasters that will need replacing in 12 months, generating another round of anxiety and uncertainty? Instead, she is expected to ease the pain from the Labour tax raid by handing out a temporary support package to the struggling businesses. Temporary. That word should send shivers down the spine of every publican in Britain. How do you plan for the future, invest in your business, hire staff, or maintain your property when the government support comes with an expiration date? It's like being told your parachute will definitely work, but only until next Tuesday, after which all bets are off. So far in the campaign to defend the hospitality industry, advocates have pleaded for a 20p discount to the rates, a demand that has been echoed by rebel Labour backbenchers. 20p, not £20, not some outrageous sum that would bankrupt the Treasury, 20p per pound of rateable value, which would make an enormous difference to small businesses operating on razor-thin margins. But even this modest request seems to be too much for Reeves to commit to permanently. And here's where it gets even better. Reeves has suggested any help offered from Labour would be exclusive to Britain's pubs, coming as a blow to the remainder of the hospitality industry. So restaurants, cafes, hotels, and other establishments that also form the backbone of British communities and employ hundreds of thousands of people, apparently they can go whistle. It's the kind of arbitrary distinction that only makes sense in the bizarre world of Treasury economics, where helping everyone in a struggling sector is too expensive, but helping just some of them is somehow fiscally responsible. Nevertheless, the pressure on the government continues to mount, and rightly so. Last week, a publican issued a stark warning to the Chancellor on GB News, setting Reeves a deadline by which time she must announce her U-turn on business rates before business owners take industrial action. Industrial action from publicans. Think about that. We have reached the point where the people who run our locals, traditionally some of the most apolitical and community-focused business owners in the country, are talking about collective action against the government.
Labour backbencher Rachel Maskell pointed out that some little retail outlets are seeing their business rates rise by 93%, and they simply don't have the resilience to deal with it. 93%. Think about that. If your rent or mortgage suddenly increased by 93%, you'd be homeless. Yet small businesses are expected to absorb these increases and carry on as normal. Fellow Labour MP Toby Perkins urged the government to provide details of promised help for pubs, noting that many are really concerned and trying to make accounting decisions right now under the impression that further help is coming. They're operating in complete uncertainty, which is possibly the worst thing for business planning aside from actual bankruptcy. Kat Eccles, another Labour backbencher, made the crucial point that this isn't just about pubs, but all hospitality businesses, including music venues, which have been massively impacted by a perfect storm of new valuations, the end of COVID-related reliefs, and rising energy costs. Perfect storm is exactly right. These businesses survived a pandemic, survived lockdowns, survived energy price spikes, and now they're being finished off by their own government tax policy. It's like watching someone survive a shipwreck, swim to shore, crawl up the beach, and then get hit by a bus driven by the Chancellor. Let's break down why these increases are happening, because the mechanics matter. Business rates are calculated partly on the value of premises, and new property valuations come into effect on April 1st. So if your pub or restaurant's property value has increased, your business rates skyrocket, regardless of whether your actual business is doing well or struggling. You could be losing money hand over fist, but if your property is worth more on paper, congratulations, your tax bill just exploded. Additionally, a discount introduced to help hospitality businesses cope with the impact of the COVID pandemic is ending, so businesses are hit with a double whammy: massive valuation increases and the removal of COVID support. This isn't economic policy, it's economic brutality. The Beer and Pub Association's warning of £150 million in higher bills annually and 15,000 jobs at risk isn't scaremongering, it's basic mathematics. If costs go up dramatically and revenue doesn't increase correspondingly, businesses cut costs. That means redundancies, reduced hours, or closure. And when pubs close, it's not just about losing a place to drink. Pubs are community hubs, social centers, places where people gather, talk, build relationships. When a pub closes, particularly in a village or small town, it's a devastating blow to community cohesion. But apparently that's acceptable collateral damage in Rachel Reeves's economic master plan. Now let's address the sheer nerve of Reeves's comments at Davos. She insisted that businesses are feeling optimistic and positive about the year ahead.